Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. I did an interview a while back, and it still to this day is my favorite interview that I've ever done. Like, it's right up there in like the best conversations that I ever had on this show. Now, I love this reality show on TLC called Welcome to Plathville, which is now in its 6th season, and we are just like 3 episodes in on TLC. I highly recommend, but it's the ups and downs of this family, the Plaths, and I've talked about it on this show before, but one of my favorite characters, and I know that's so bizarre to say characters because this is a real person, is Olivia. And Olivia Marie Plath is an amazing person that we watch actually go through her life. And I know it's focused on the Plaths, but I think her journey is one to watch. And we talked with her last time about her journey of coming to Los Angeles. She's a professional wedding photographer. She's photographed over 200 weddings, you guys. She's been all over. But what's so exciting to me is a young person trying to find out who they are. And she is a really good person at her core, and she always just kind of fascinates me, and I can't wait to continue this conversation. So the one, the only Olivia Marie Plath is back with us today.
Thank you for having me back. I'm not going to say that you were my favorite conversation ever as a podcaster, because I don't want to hurt anyone else's feelings, but like,
No, I got to say, I really didn't expect how open and honest you would be. And that's kind of why I like you, is that every time I see you on screen, or even if I look at your social media, I sense somebody real. And I think that's what I think a lot of us are attracted to when we look at shows like these. And your journey is a little bit of a harder one because the show is not about you, but you really have this very pivotal storyline. And that's, of course, the marriage with you and Ethan. And we are seeing already this season some really heartbreaking, crushing scenes in these first 2 episodes. My first question to you was, how are you? Not just with like the show itself, but like now public is seeing this again. You have all of this discourse around it. We were talking before. You said somebody on Twitter called you Olivia Cruella Duville or something. Like, how are you? Cruella de Plathville, sorry.
I am doing so well. Honestly, I feel like last time we talked, I was just getting on my feet after divorce, trying to figure all of that out. And I'm not gonna say I found myself, because it's a lifelong journey, right? Like, I've just started, but I feel so solidly planted in the discovery of like figuring out who I am. And it just feels like it's an upward trajectory.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, I'll check in on your Instagram or something, and I'll see your stories, and you'll be here or there. And I'm like, yeah, good for her. Get out there. Even when they were showing little clips from your Instagram, showing you at like the Hollywood Bowl or you in the park. And I was like, that's what it's about, is kind of trying to discover who you are. And I love that you said it is a lifelong journey, because that's really what it is. But as a TV show that we watch, we have to watch one of the most uncomfortable moments of your life. And this is not to take away from Ethan's journey at all, because it's difficult. You know, I feel for him. But what's it like having to do these really painful moments and realize that we're all going to watch it and dissect it?
Okay, it's kind of like split in my mind. Season 5, I had way more anxiety about season 5, because you're deciding like to leave a relationship. And I was like, there are so many people who are going to think I'm the problem. And there's going to be so many people who are like, oh, finally for Ethan. And there's going to be so many people who are like, oh, we understand why. That anxiety of like all those opinions was really hard. Season 6, I mean, yeah, it was hard at the time of filming it, but like mentally I was in such a different place. I was not expecting it to be that emotional, because I thought we had both agreed we were getting divorced. So when I went back, I was like shocked at the dynamic and what it actually was. And it was this really, really hard place of like, wow, here's a person in front of me who's not doing well. And obviously, even if I had never been romantically connected to them, I have some compassion seeing somebody who's not doing well. At the same time, I've never been doing better. Like, how do I hold space for those two things?
Well, I mean, that's the kind of thing, is that you walk in, you know, you kind of, you seem very confident walking in. You look great. All of these things seem to be coming together for you. And then we see Ethan, and Ethan looks shook when you come in. And, you know, I mean, I feel for Ethan like anybody else does. And he says in that scene, or he says in like the next episode of like, listen, I I thought I wanted this one thing, but then I saw you and I now want something differently. And nothing can prepare you for that. Nothing can prepare you for, at one point, your best friend and somebody that you still will always have love for, to say, no, what can I do? What can we do to change this? It kind of throws you for a loop, I would imagine.
Sort of. I was not expecting him to have that response to when I saw him again, but also it was like, to be completely fair, it's not as if he was saying, what can be done? What can I do to change this? It was, are you sure you just won't decide that you're okay with this and come back?
Yeah.
Which, that's a very different question.
I think that's actually a great point, because I think especially a lot of men, we talk big, but we never actually follow up on our talk. We never actually do the things that actually improve a relationship, but we're big proclamators. We'll proclaim that we're going to do this and that. And in those moments, he's still not promising you these things that you potentially wanted to drive that relationship forward. First off, though, I got to tell you, did you really just surprise him? Did you just show up and you're like, sorry, thought I told you?
No, I mean,
we don't. No, that was my one thing, was just the surprise, like a pop appearance at the door.
No, we all know, like, when we're shooting, we're not like ambushed by cameras or people ever. We all know like what we're shooting and what's happening. Yeah. No.
Yeah. The other thing is that we're following the Plaths, as we always have, but now we're going to, it looks like, get to follow your journey away from them and kind of building this life. And was there ever that question in your mind of, is this the point where I say goodbye to cameras and say goodbye to this reality show because I want to make my life my own and not share that? Like, I understand when it's with the Plaths, but I think from seeing the season preview for the entire season, we get to follow your journey. What went into that decision?
There's a lot of different factors. I mean, contracts.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty simple. Okay, great.
We're saying that. I think the personal side of it is like, if you're going to talk about kids that grew up in fundamentalism and you're going to show kids that decide to stay in it, that decide to embody and hold on to those beliefs, the flip side is you kind of have to talk about kids that decide to not live that lifestyle and decide to walk away and decide to think differently. What does that look like? What does that process walking away look like? And I think what I've experienced is in a very small way shown on the show of like, you lose everybody. Same thing happened with my family. Like, when you walk away from fundamentalism and you question everything and you think different, you lose the only community and circle that you had, and you have to start again and build a new one. And that is shown a little bit in this season.
Yeah, I still think about even the story you were telling me about your brother's funeral and your family, and that is, I mean, that's so painful to think about, people kind of shutting you out based on certain beliefs and certain things like that. And that's why I think this show is important, is that, and your story in particular is just this great juxtaposition between you and the Plaths, where I feel like sometimes they're going back, like sometimes, they're going backwards, not forwards. And I don't want to make any comment on whether something's bad or good, but it is interesting to say, I am open to different things. I am open to different stories. Love can be a lot of different things. I don't know. It always just seems so cruel and heartless. And I'm trying to understand it from a different point of view, but I don't sometimes understand it, especially when it comes to what you've been through.
Yeah. Like, everyone's free to believe whatever they want. And I have my own thoughts about like choosing to go back to fundamental or like more conservative beliefs, because that's not what I've chosen for my life. But I'm not going to tell someone else they can't believe that. The only place that really I don't understand or really gets me is like when history is rewritten. Even though there's like 5 years worth of stuff we can all look back on and be like, I'm pretty sure that happened.
Well, I mean, what are some of the things, are you allowed to say? What are some of those things that you're confused that seem to be rewritten? Like, and also, even when you get into the minutia of the show, I'm still so confused about, like, did you have the song? Did you take a song from, like, I mean, like, there's so many little minutia where I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah. I mean, apparently I was recently forgiven for everything.
Good.
By Micah. So, I guess that's good. I can move forward with a clear conscience.
Well, I mean, like, are there other things that kind of bother you when you hear about yourself that you're like, that's not true. That's not how things went down?
Um, I mean, the last 5 years of my life trying to like have some kind of choice in my own life and choose what I get to do and what I believe and what toothpaste I use, whether or not I drink alcohol, like all these little choices. And then to hear now, like I'm the one that caused all the problems.
Yeah.
And like that to me, it just blows my mind. For the first like 3, 4 seasons of the show, Ethan's siblings were living with me in my home. I was taking care of them, like financially, emotionally, supporting them, all of this stuff. And then now to hear that, like, I was never there for the family. I never had relationships with them. I scratch my head and I just go, okay, I think people often believe what they need to believe to make sense of the reality that they see. So
Yeah.
I'm the bad guy in the story, and that's okay. Like, I don't need to change their mind on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's gotta be really interesting and insane to, like, kind of deal with in retrospect. I asked you this last time, and I don't know if it's changed at all, but besides Ethan, have you talked to anybody else in the sense of the Plath family?
I believe on episode 4, so not this week, but next,
Okay.
Mariah and I have a conversation, and I know that that was shown a little bit in the Super Tease.
Oh, wow.
Very, very interesting conversation. I felt like I had closure before the conversation. Afterwards, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Yeah, I can't like give away, I guess, the
Yeah, of
conversation,
course.
but it's coming up in like I think like 2 episodes.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Last time we talked, I put it out, and there was so much response to it. And to me, I like walked away like, this is just amazing. What a conversation! It kind of inspired me, and it was still interesting. And you've said this a bunch, but I was shocked at some of the comments that were negative. That were like, "Well, she turned her back on this family, and she turned." And I just to me, this was like the easiest, simplest interview where, wow, like I thought, if anything, if you thought a certain thing, this really might help you change your mind. And it kind of almost
Mhm,
awakened me to the fact that it's really hard to change anybody's mind. So why even bother trying to do that?
mhm.
That's got to be the frustrating part for you a little bit in continuing on with this, like you said, with all of the discourse surrounding this show.
Yeah, I think I've also accepted that I'm always gonna be the outlier. Like, I was always the person who came into a family dynamic. I was the in-law, whether I was treated that way or not, like, does it really matter? I wasn't part of the core family unit, and they never saw me that way. Um, so I think that for people who are watching this for, like, a family dynamic, I'm the odd one out. Um, and it was actually funny, like, 2 days ago, I was like, "Where are all these hate comments coming from?" Like, I always get, like, negative comments and hate comments on my Instagram, but it was like every single one was that, and I was like, "Where is this coming from?" And I was like, "Oh, duh, a new season is airing. Back out of the woodwork." But honestly, sometimes I delete really, really nasty comments. I don't
Yeah.
answer them because I don't really care. Like, they're not living my life. They didn't go through what I went through. They don't know 70% of the story and the background to things, and I know I messed up. Like, I'm not blind to that. It's not like I think that I was perfect and never hurt anybody or whatever, but I also know that I am able to reflect on that and make different choices moving forward and learn and grow from it. So, like, I'm not gonna lose sleep over someone else's hate comment.
Well, I lose sleep over it all the time, so you are a way better person than I am. So good for you. You said the word outlier though, and I think that's such a special word because I think sometimes it's amazing to be an outlier, and sometimes we learn the most about ourselves in the world when we are one. But you do show we are seeing a little bit of a family story because you and your sister, we get to see you even in the first couple of episodes. Your sister's in this second episode. I think she pops up later in the season or throughout the season, so we
Mhm.
get to see that family aspect. Is it interesting to now know your sister in a different way after this, and how much have you relied on her in the last year?
Yeah, my sister and I are pretty close. I think it helps that we obviously grew up together. We had, years where we weren't talking, we weren't close, but have had a lot of hard conversations starting our relationship again. And I think actually an interesting dynamic is like, yes, I do have, her as family on this season, and she does pop up throughout the season. One thing though is like, she's not afraid to tell me what she thinks about something. She's not afraid to like share her mind on something. And I think that's part of why the family relationship I have with her feels so different than any other family relationship I've ever had, where you have to like agree and go along with. And if something's dysfunctional or hurting someone, you just have to like, family's family first. Like that's what it's about. Yeah. And Stan and I are like, no, actually, I really hate this thing you do. And like, have you thought about this from another perspective or angle? Like, it just feels like a very honest relationship, which is something that we've been intentional about as adults working and rebuilding our relationship. We agreed that it was only going to work if we were really honest with each other.
Well, listen, I mean, even in the preview for the entire season, I don't know if you watched it, but I think maybe you have a flirtation with another young man and she's going too fast in this relationship. So I'm assuming that might be one of those things. And I don't know how much you can talk about this, but we talked about it the first time, was that, you were dating in Los Angeles. And I'm assuming from watching the preview for the entire season, we get to see a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. And just to share with the audience, because dating anytime, anywhere kind of sucks. You probably have found ways to enjoy it, but we talked a long time ago. Has it gotten any better? I mean, I know there's potentially a special person in your life. I don't know what you're allowed to talk about and what you aren't, but can you share with us some of the things you have been learning through dating about yourself?
Yeah. I think dating got better when I stopped. So I went on a few dates here and there, and it was just like stressful and full of anxiety, and I felt dumb and stupid, and I didn't really know what I was doing.
Wait, why did you feel dumb and stupid?
Because I'd never dated before. So like,
okay,
looking to date someone older than me. I was 25 at the time, never having been on a real date. Like, it felt kind of stupid to go on a date with like a guy who's in his later 20s and be like, so I've never done this. It got better when I stopped, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I don't need to rush to meet somebody. If I'm supposed to meet somebody and it's supposed to be a connection, it's going to happen organically as I live my life and do things I'm passionate about. And yeah, that happened. I met someone while working a wedding, which is, I love shooting weddings, and I met another vendor there, and yeah, took it pretty slow. We, just talked for a few months, went on a date eventually, waited a few more months, and then decided to start dating. So yeah, you guys.
Did you get the butterflies? Did you have the butterflies and the whole thing? Like when you get nervous because you like somebody so much?
I mean, maybe a little bit. If anything, it just felt really safe and comfortable.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you guys will get to meet him the end of this season. I keep it pretty quiet on social media. I figure I want to use my social media for other things, but on the show, yeah, at the end of this season, you guys will get to meet him.
Well, when you were dating and it was potentially bad, did you ever ghost or get ghosted? Did that ever happen?
I got ghosted. But that was in Europe. So I think they're built a little different over there.
Yeah, that was in Europe. Wow.
Going on. Here in the States, no, I was very, very picky, I will say.
Now, is this your second summer in Los Angeles, or is this your first?
So I signed a lease last summer in Los Angeles. My lease is up this summer. And I'm going to move. I'm going to put down roots somewhere else. I know.
Even you and Ethan, you were like 2 years in every place. You're leaving. I thought you were going to be in Angelino. You're moving?
Yeah, because, like long term, I'm traveling a lot in my life right now. And I didn't realize living in Los Angeles added like 6 hours and a couple $100 to like any time you leave the country. So it makes more sense to be closer to several large airports where I have more options for traveling, especially working right now. And like long term, I want a couple kids. I want to get married again. I want to settle down. And there is no way I can afford to live in Los Angeles long term. There's no way I can afford to buy land out here. Well, I'm just like,
if we do an Olivia reality show on TLC, we can do it. If we do your own reality show, we can. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. I will. Well, this is what I will say, though. You said, I want to get married again. Now, if we go by the show, you visit a tarot card reader in this last episode, which that seemed like it was a big deal for you, because that almost, I would imagine some people think is like the devil's work or something like that. But it looked like a really big deal for you and your sister, and you are told that you will only be married once, but then potentially the person that you were with will come back into your life later in your life, and you almost seemed giddy about it in the talking head.
That's because I didn't really know what to say. So I swear I don't know where she got all this stuff from, because there have been other people who have messaged me and was like, that is not what those cards said. So shout out to the tarot readers.
Shout out, yeah.
The thing is, like, I grew up believing that anything, that wasn't like the Bible, like, all that's witchcraft, all that's the occult, all that's just woo-woo. And I think where I am now, in my spirituality journey, is trying to be a lot more open and understand different perspectives and see what, fits or what sticks when I throw it all at the wall. And I remember being a little kid and passing like a palm reading or like a tarot reading shop and being like, oh my God, the devil. So as an adult, I was like, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to conquer this bias that I have, and I'm just going to see what it's all about. I'm not going to put a lot of stock in it. And like, to sit in a chair where it's like, this is all going to be wishy-washy, it's not going to mean anything, and have her be like, so you're going to get back with your ex? I was like, oh, this did not help my bias. Now I really don't like tarot reading.
Yeah, and she brought up your brother in that same session, so it was like really intense. And I think for the people listening or watching this, you got to remember, like, when you grow up being told a certain thing or not being exposed to certain parts of the world, we take all of that for granted. Where, like, yeah, tarot card readers like really don't think a lot about it. It's like fun, or it could be helpful, and especially what you put into it. But for other people, it's a huge deal. So I thought that was such an interesting scene, just based on your reactions.
Well, and I also I think growing up being told that anything like that is of the devil or Satan, as an adult, trying to decipher that of like, okay, is this silly? Is this surface level? Or is she actually like convening with Satan down the hallway and then coming back with answers? Like, how serious is this?
Yeah.
And if she tells me this, like, does she have like some spiritual knowing that I don't? Like, can that not happen? Do I have the power to make that not happen? And actually, one of the producers was so great about this, because I'm standing there in my interview and I'm like, I don't like her and I don't know what to say. Like, I really hate this. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to say never, because when you say never, it happens. But like, no. And he told me, he was like, you have complete control of your destiny. You can hear this, and this is what someone else thinks is going to happen based on the current energy, which is probably Ethan wishing to get back together. But like, you don't want to get back together. So you can say no, and you can move on, and you have complete control of your destiny. And then I was like, okay, I don't hate her. It's totally fine.
Yeah, we have free will still. Did you watch, I mean, I don't know how closely you watch these shows, because you barely knew it was potentially going to be on. Did you not watch these episodes so far?
I watched the premiere, the first episode. I watched part of the second episode. I didn't finish it. And then I don't think I'm going to watch tonight, because I have something else going on, but I might catch up at some point.
Well, I'll let you know what happens, I guess, in the show. But
what I filmed. Honestly, I remember one thing I filmed. No, a few more than one, but I don't remember what I filmed this season.
It's a great show, but it's got to be so weird for you to watch. So I would probably stay as far away from it as possible if I was the person in the show. But I got to just get and this is more funny than anything else. Can you believe Kim's on a boat? That's wild. To me, that was like, I was like, wait, what? And it wasn't like a yacht. It's like a tiny little boat. I was like, she's living on a boat?
Yeah, she has a lot of ideas. Always has.
That's very kind. Yes, very kind. Okay, so Ethan, I had a couple questions about him. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
In the first episode, we see Ethan, and it looks like he really is, like, there's this place of anger and regret, and like I couldn't really even read his face. I mean, it was really kind of intense. And like I said, I know he was your best friend at one point. Do you see a world in which he can use this as a growing experience instead of falling into bitterness? Because that's sometimes what I get scared about, is this him kind of lashing out at people and potentially you, and not seeing your side and getting angrier and angrier.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't see that at the end of our relationship. Where he is now personally in his journey, I don't know. There's not contact between the two of us. I think probably for a lot of them, listen, for everyone, therapy is a good idea. And it's not that hard to come by. So,
and it's not the devil's work. Therapy is not the devil's work at all.
I think that might be more beneficial than the gym, but like, not my place. I made the suggestion a few times, and it is what it is.
But that's such an interesting thing. And I don't even think just the Plaths, but everybody in general, like people will go out and like work their abs to death, but they will do nothing for their mind because that's so much scarier than lifting a weight. And you can see the effects on your body and nobody really sees the effects on your mind, even though it colors your entire life.
I think that goes to paint a much bigger picture of how we view mental health and how it's usually not taken seriously until it's too late because we don't see the effects. In the same way that, physical abuse is considered worse than emotional abuse because you don't see the direct effects. But I think in the first or second episode, Ethan saying like, yeah, I'm working 2 jobs and really never sleep and like just keep myself busy. Like, would rather do all of that than like actually sit with something and go to therapy. That's got to be so hard. It's got to be so hard.
Yeah, and I imagine like, I've unfortunately been divorced, and I remember sitting in a scene kind of like yours of knowing that it had to be over, but the other person like at the last minute wanting to like, hey, and it just that really scene kind of rocked me for a lot of reasons. And the thing that you mentioned that we talked about already in terms of what he could have actually made moves to save this at a point in time. That time has passed. But I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but I was so curious. In the first episode, we revisited a scene from a past season in which Ethan had said he had wrote 3 non-negotiables for your marriage to continue. And I can guess what these are, but can you shed any light to us what those 3 things were?
The 3-item list is actually a little bit of a myth. And it's not actually factual. When that scene was shot, he had never like personally handwritten a list of like, here's the 3 things. What he had done is like told me these are all the things that are going to have to happen for us to stay together. One was for me to become religious again, go back to church, raise our kids that way. Another one was for me to be conservative Republican, like change my politics or what I believe about politics. And then the third one was all about like how our kids, if we had them, like who they could be, what they were allowed to believe and think in order for them to be like welcomed in the home and everything. He summarized that as that's only 3 things. It's not a lot. To me,
that's a lot.
Way more than 3 things. To me, like each one of those has subsets. Each one of those have nuances. Each one of those has that's not 3 things. It's your entire life. It's what you believe about the world and people and how you treat people.
Yeah, no, I mean, completely. And that's some of the things that I had guessed already, but like that, even to not acknowledge how huge that is, because, if you have kids, they're going to have their own thoughts. You can't stomp somebody's like whole brain out as much as you would like to try. And the thing is, I want to say like, I genuinely want the best for Ethan. I've watched him now for 6 seasons and like, I want him to be happy. And it was obvious that is not going to be with you. So I do root for him, but I also root for people to like have love and acceptance for everybody. And I think that's the interesting thing that we're seeing like brushing up against, especially when we compare it to your story of truly opening yourself up to the world. And that doesn't mean like you're the devil. It means I'm experiencing things for the new time, like the first time, and taking them in and you still have your mind.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was being told that like by being open-minded, it meant I had no morals anymore. I'd kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater. To which I say, and just the idea that like, because I am more accepting, that doesn't mean that I don't have a standard for how human beings should live or treat anybody anymore. It's not like everything goes. It's not black or white, right? It's not a slippery slope. It's not like you can have nothing or everything. There's a line that I draw of like, this is what living an ethical life looks like to me. This is what living a life filled with love and acceptance for other people looks like to me. And I'm not willing to give that up to make a relationship work that felt like a roller coaster.
Yeah, no, I'm my sister's very Christian, and her and my niece were visiting this weekend, which was funny because they heard a lot of bad things about Los Angeles. So it was great to show them that, hey, look, like, we just have expensive Hailey Bieber. We have Hailey Bieber smoothies at Era One that are way too expensive, but we had the best time. I've been thinking about religion so much this past year because my mom passed away this past year. And, we've had so many conversations about the afterlife and heaven and what this means and what that means. And I don't necessarily, I'm not, I don't consider myself Christian, but I do consider myself spiritual. And I'm trying to find, like, I want to believe in something, and I want to find something that works. I don't know. I don't even know why I brought this up. Just the fact that, like, life is about searching. Life is about searching. And everybody, when you're brushing up against different beliefs, I just see that it makes people hate each other more than accept each other.
Yeah. I hardcore relate to that. My brother died last year, and I was already on a path of trying to figure out what I believe spiritually. And it really just set that in motion of trying to figure out, like, what do I believe about the human existence and what happens after we die, and like, what's our purpose here? Especially as a woman, and being told what my purpose was my whole life, which was to live for other people.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, I'm a dude, like, I'm a white straight dude. I got everything like, I've got the world on a string, you know, like, think about like it is wild to think about how much, like, that even women allow other men, not allow, but sometimes they're forced to, like, put restrictions on everything they do. And that's why I think sometimes people like you will get people upset, because you're out there figuring things out for yourself instead of kind of being strongly suggested or told what to do.
Yeah. Also, when you think for yourself, or when you're trying to figure things out, okay, I've learned this about people, especially on social media. When you're trying to figure things out and you're trying to decide, like, where the line is and what goes and what doesn't, or like what makes you happy and doesn't bother literally anyone else, you get called like cringy. I get all these comments all the time. It's like, you're so cringy. You're so stunted. And I'm like, and okay. It doesn't bother me. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not hurting you.
I was like, yeah, I've been cringy since I was a kid. Like, there's not changing at all. Like, yeah, rock on. Like, this is it. I mean, by the way, like, this is pretty bland cringiness too. Like, I wish I was even more exciting cringy.
I could really be cringy if I wanted to. I could really try.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to be in show choir. I know what cringe is. Are you still playing music? Are you still doing anything musically?
You know what? Just for myself, not as much as I used to. My sister Lydia has been really inspiring me because she plays with a band where she lives in Arizona. And I've been like, oh my God, I really need to get back into that. I think, okay, I have to be very careful how I say this.
Okay. We can cut around it if you, whatever you.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I think, you know, I grew up in a very musical family, played music in a band for many years. When I got married and like was around the Plath family a lot, I think I lost a lot of confidence in music because they like, I don't think that they thought that I was like on par with them or like up to their level. So I kind of didn't play music for many years. And since getting divorced, I've been like, wait a minute. No, I can totally play that instrument. I think I'm okay.
That's a shame. Well, and also, wasn't Kim like, didn't she like kind of follow your family initially in terms of getting the family into music? So I think that's
we used to teach them songs.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I think if you watch the season preview, it's like, I think they're potentially starting another family band, or it looked like, you know, Kim's like, let's rock and roll. And I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be wild. But yeah, I was wondering sometimes if things that we love, like, you know, have sometimes been overshadowed because of your situation with the Plaths, where you're like, I do not want to pick up a fiddle ever again. I do not want to hear music, like that it scarred you in some way.
You know what? I actually almost hope they cut this out, but on one of the last episodes, end of the show, my sister and I play violin together, and I hadn't played in like 7 years. I was incredibly rusty, and I was like, look, I really love music. I was discouraged from playing it for many years. I really want to get back into this. Like, will you bring your extra violin and play with me? And I hadn't played in 7 years, and it was so rusty that I almost hope they cut that out. Like, everyone's ears are going to bleed.
That's not true at all, because I was watching you and your family, like, what was it, like last season or the season before, like, and all of a sudden everybody just started playing like in the spur of the moment at that like the open mic night or something.
Yeah.
Like, I think your brother was involved in it too, and I was like, wait, this is insane. It was so good.
I mean, I grew up playing music and I love it. Getting back into it in my own way for myself, yeah, it feels pretty good. It's very cathartic.
We have about 10 minutes left. So to start coming to bringing things around, I wanted to also find out, because I asked you this last time and I got such a kick out of it. What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to lately?
I knew you were going to ask this question.
Yes.
I am prepared.
Okay, good.
I will tell you, the first thing I'm watching is something that's going to make you so happy.
Yes. What is
Your
Vanderpump
favorite
Rules?
show. Yeah, your favorite show ever.
You're watching Vanderpump. See, by the way, now that's devil. Now the Vanderpump Rules is the devil. No, I will, because I told her last time, you guys, because Scandal was happening. So are you starting from the beginning, or did you start from like the middle?
So some of my friends started from the beginning. I haven't seen every single episode with them, but I come back every couple episodes. So, and then they catch me up on whatever I've missed. And then the last season, I've seen like every episode. So I would consider myself recently caught up. There was a lot to watch there.
So there's like 11 seasons. So what is your opinion or take? Do you like, this is ridiculous? Because it kind of is. Like, you watched the entire last season, and that's like Sandoval, after everything happened with Ariana and stuff, right?
Okay. Yes. Here's the only two takeaways I'll really say. One, I guess I have like I noticed that Katie followed me on Instagram, and I was like, that's odd. So I followed her back, and we have like a little friendship. And then two, I really want to go see Ariana in Chicago. So that's my takeaways.
Well, she starts Chicago next week. You definitely should. And you should go to Katie and Ariana's sandwich shop, something about her. You would.
Yeah, I was not in Los Angeles when they opened, but I love a good sandwich. So I'm going to make my way over there.
Well, I am shocked you're watching Vanderpump Rules, and I love that you're watching potentially with friends that are going through the season with you. What are you reading and listening to?
Actually, I just finished the book Educated, which I don't know if you've read that, but it's a memoir from a girl that kind of grew up a lot more extreme than I did, but there's a lot of similarities. And everybody told me before reading it, they're like, be really careful, like that could wreck you. And the first half of the book, when she's like recounting all her childhood stories, I was like, I got this. I'm not traumatized at all. Like, there's so many parallels, and haha, that was my childhood. And then I got to the second half of the book where she's an adult and she's healing from that childhood, and she's being cut off from her family, and she's like going to college and trying to figure shit out. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm really emotionally not okay.
Yeah.
It was a challenging but cathartic read. I really enjoyed that. Several other books that I am currently working on: The Color of Law, which was recommended to me by a lot of people. A book called White Fragility. I'm literally looking at my bookshelf right here.
I know. I'm like,
yeah.
I know. I have my bookshelf in the back. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, read White Fragility. Yeah. Read that. Yeah. Like, no, it's one of those, and I've been listening and burning through audiobooks lately while I go on walks. But I love that you read, and I'm always curious what you're reading now. And then what are you listening to?
What am I listening to? Okay. I told you last time, if it's podcast, it's true crime.
You true crime. Yeah. That's what I was like. You were doing true crime
through and through.
Yeah.
But I've kind of actually switched from listening to true crime to watching. I put it in the background as I edit, and it's any cold.
It's very peaceful and relaxing.
Very much so. It's any like unsolved case, cold case, forensic files, anything like that. I've seen them all. I actually have watched a couple of them more than once. Somehow it actually is calming, which I read recently might be a very major problem with my neurological system, but I'm ignoring it.
Yeah, well, let's wait for the hate comments on that one. And then you say you're a big fan of classic rock, I think, and you have like a playlist and all that. Any new albums you're into? Any new music obsessions?
You know what? I just a couple days ago went and saw the Black Pumas live. And
they're so good.
I had like listened to their music sporadically here and there, but when I saw them live, I was like, why do I not listen to them more? That was such a good concert. And I also saw Lamont Landers.
Ray LaMontagne?
No, listen to all like his new ones coming out, but there was like another small artist that opened for Black Pumas. I think his first name is Lamont. And he was also excellent. So yeah, I guess more into like the psychedelic, indie rock, punk, funk, all of that. Yeah.
What show? We saw that picture on Plathville of you at the Hollywood Bowl. What did you see?
I went and saw the 1975.
Ah, yeah. Wait, are you a Swiftie at all?
Okay, I don't dislike Taylor Swift, but I'm not like a Swiftie either.
It's a brave stance.
The genre that I listen to the least is probably pop. So
yeah. Well, is that like Sabrina Carpenter,
Yeah, I don't really keep up with like new pop music coming out. I would know more about rock music. I'm really into like the indie stuff these days. I've started listening to country again, which I really disliked for a few years. Now I'm like, there's some solidness to this.
Yeah, it's as I get older, I listen to like slower and slower music, and I'm like, wow, it's just like I'm just getting slower and slower.
Yeah.
Um,
I went to
let's see.
an EDM concert with my sister. That was the first time I'd ever done like electronic music. You know what? I'm
What?
just all for the
How was
experience.
that?
It was great, except for her phone was stolen.
Oh,
So, you know,
okay. Yeah.
casual.
Um, let's see. In terms of leaving Los Angeles in the future and getting everything you need out of something, like it seems like this is something that you're used to, kind of going from place to place to place. What do you consider this chapter to be all about for you? What will you always kind of remember Los Angeles for?
Los Angeles was the place that I could finally breathe again. When I moved to Los Angeles, I knew that it was short term. I knew I wasn't going to stay a long time, but it was like I've always wanted to live here. I don't know where to go, and I'm starting over, and I kind of just want to get lost. I want to just be at peace and have a slower pace in my life. And Los Angeles was the perfect place for that. Made so many friends. Tried to surf, read so many books in the park, went to shows, went hiking, went to the beach all the time. I think Los Angeles was the city that like started to heal me, where I started to
Yeah.
feel more like myself and I could breathe. Um, and yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited to kind of figure out where to go next.
I love that. And kind of finally is obviously I'm not a woman, but I think you are so inspirational to women and especially young women. And I know we talk about negativity that is out there, but I got to imagine there's a lot of overwhelming positivity as well. Do you get a lot of people that reach out to you to say, hey, this is kind of inspirational to watch you piece your life together and find out who you are again?
Absolutely. I think sometimes the hate feels louder because it cuts deeper. But in general, I think the positivity, like that outweighs the negativity. Um, there are so many people and I don't even feel like it's deserved on my part, but there's so many people who reach out and are like, especially after this past season, who are like, you helped me leave a relationship that was not good for me either. You helped me like decide what's best for me and take care of myself in life. And that feels like in some ways very overwhelming because I'm like, oh my God, I could really fuck up on national television and like
Yeah.
really harm a lot of people if they're looking up to me. But at the same time, it did help me feel not alone in starting over and figuring things out, knowing that there's so many of us, especially young women coming out of fundamentalism who are trying to figure things out. And I would love if I could use my platform in some way to kind of speak to them and provide like support and humor and, solidarity in all of us finding our way.
And I think you're speaking to some of them right now. So if there are people out there listening or watching this, what are some of the first steps if people are questioning or wanting to want a little bit more for their lives? What do you think some of those first steps are that you could lead them towards?
I mean, for me, I started asking myself, like, in what areas do I feel held back? In what areas do I feel like I'm not being my authentic self or can't be my authentic self? In what areas do I feel like I'm ignorant or like lacking education? And for each of those things, if I felt like I was reaching a ceiling, if I felt like I was feeling the top of the box, that I couldn't explore further, I couldn't ask more questions, then it was like, okay, why does this box exist around me? Am I putting it there? Is someone else putting it there? At the end of the day, I just don't want to live in a box. I want to have I want no ceiling. I want to be able to ask any question. And that was kind of the litmus test for ending my marriage and walking away from fundamentalism. Is it felt like a box, and it felt like there was a limit to how much I could ask and grow and experience, and I didn't want that. And maybe some people do. Maybe to some people that feels like stability, but if you're asking questions about like, do I really want this, then it's probably worth weighing it a little bit more and paying attention.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I guess just finally, because it just popped up in my like, do you think you and Ethan at a certain point, because you seem really fully formed in who you are on a really great path, do you think there's a point where you would ever want to be friends or consider being friends, where you could leave each other comments on Instagram photos, as silly as that is?
I don't foresee that. I don't think so. I think he is also very set in his mind as to who he is as a person. And I think that a lot of our core values really clash. And
Yeah.
I've said this to another interviewer, but like, especially as a girl, it's really hard to have space in my life for men who subscribe to patriarchal or fundamental teachings, because it doesn't harm them at all. It harms women around them, and it silences women around them. And I don't want that in my life. I don't know how to live fully and authentically and still keep people like that around me. So I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, listen, the tarot card reader says a different thing, Olivia. So we gotta go by that. This is all our time. I could talk to you for hours. I'm just so proud of you. Like I was so happy with our talk last time, and I just want to point out to the audience, we managed to do this. We did not badmouth any Plaths. We didn't badmouth. This is what conversations can be like. Of just two people talking about an experience and a show that we still love to watch and deriving good things from that show, which I think there's a lot. So Olivia Marie Plath, where can we support you? You have your Instagram. I'm going to put that all there. Can if somebody gets married, could I get you as a wedding photographer? Like, are you just booked up forever?
No, I am taking like 15 to 20 weddings a year right now. And I'm not fully booked for next year. So if you're getting married again, Ryan.
Yeah, I was like, that would be huge. I the whole time I'd just be like, hey, take a picture of us over here. Like, that'd be great. Olivia Marie Plath, I hope to talk to you again. I'm really excited to see where your future goes, because I think it's going to be bright, and very far. So thank you so much. Welcome to Plathville every Tuesday night, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I'll talk to you later.